Alaska Soldier of the Year, Sergeant Guadalupe Gonzalez. Sergeant Guadalupe Gonzalez is a battalion religious affairs specialist assigned to the 1st Battalion, 5th Infantry Regiment, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 11th Airborne Division of the United States Army at Fort Wainwright, Alaska. In this role, Sergeant Gonzalez assists battalion chaplains with religious services and supports soldiers through hardships and difficulties. With a servant's heart and warm smile, she strives to make a positive impact on those around her. Sergeant Gonzalez was born in Mexico and moved to the United States in 2019. Driven by a desire for new challenges, she enlisted in the U.S. Army in 2021. As a pioneering female cavalry scout, Sergeant Gonzalez rose to the challenge of being part of the first generation of women to enlist in a combat arms military occupational specialty. Her determination has taken her far and earned her a spot on the prestigious Brigade Combative Team FLAW. Known as Mighty Mouse due to her competitive nature and petite stature, Sergeant Gonzalez took 3rd place in her weight class at the Lacerda Cup 2023 Combatives. Sergeant Gonzalez's awards include an Army Achievement Medal, an Army Good Conduct Medal, a National Defense Service Medal, and an Army Service Ribbon. Sergeant Gonzalez has re-enlisted as a religious affairs specialist and will transition to the National Guard. She plans to return to active duty after completing military occupational specialty qualifications and pursuing a bachelor's degree in human resources. Alaska Army Reservist of the Year, Staff Sergeant Nadaris Whittet. Staff Sergeant Nadaris Whittet is a horizontal engineer assigned to the 297th Engineer Construction Company at Lee Army Reserve Center on Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. As the platoon sergeant for 1st Platoon within the company's main body, he holds many leadership responsibilities as well as additional duties including licensed instructor and examiner, unit movement officer assistant, engagement skills trainer operator, and range non-commissioned officer in charge. Born and raised in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Staff Sergeant Whittet enlisted in the U.S. Army Reserve as a split-option soldier during his junior year of high school. Staff Sergeant Whittet completed basic combat training at Fort Knox and advanced individual training at Fort Leonard Wood. Initially assigned as a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear specialist, he transitioned to Military Occupational Specialty 12N in 2012 to his primary specialty of horizontal construction engineer. In addition to his duties as an Army reservist, he works as the coil tubing lead operator at Schlumberger in Anchorage. Staff Sergeant Whittet's personal awards include 2 Army Commendation Medals and a National Defense Services Medal. He is currently pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering through the University of Arizona's online program. Staff Sergeant Whittet is married and has 2 daughters. Alaska Army National Guardsman of the Year, Specialist Patrick Delorier. Specialist Patrick Delorier is a military police officer assigned to the 49th Missile Defense Battalion at Fort Greely, Alaska. In his role, Specialist Delorier is responsible for protecting our homeland by guarding the assets on the MDC. Specialist Delorier previously served 8 years active duty as a forward observer, a joint fires observer, and a fire support NCO. He also completed 5 Pacific Pathways rotations. Specialist Delorier transitioned to the Army National Guard to prioritize his family. First serving in the Florida Army National Guard, he was a team leader through 2 hurricane relief missions and completed his associate's degree in fire science. Specialist Delorier arrived to Alaska in 2023 to serve full-time at Fort Greely. Specialist Delorier's personal awards include, among others, the Army Commendation Medal, 4 Army Achievement Medals, and 2 Good Conduct Medals. He is a member of the Fort Greely Color Guard team and of the Delta Junction hockey team. Specialist Delorier is married and has 2 daughters. He plans to go to officer candidate school in the near future to commission and accept an officer role at Fort Greely. Alaska Marine of the Year, Corporal Stephen Manning. Corporal Stephen Manning is assigned to the Detachment Delta Company, 4th Law Enforcement Battalion at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska, as an administrative specialist. In addition to his work as an administrative specialist, Corporal Manning was the 2024 Toys for Tots Program Assistant Coordinator. Originally from Leavenworth, Kansas, Corporal Manning enlisted in the Marine Corps in 2018. In 2019, he was promoted to Lance Corporal. He achieved the rank of corporal in 2021. Since enlisting, Corporal Manning's orders have included Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 23rd Marine Regiment in Smyrna, Tennessee, and the Marine Corps Support Facility in New Orleans, Louisiana. He arrived to Alaska in 2023. Corporal Manning's personal awards include a National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Medal, Selected Marine Corps Reserve Medal, Navy Arctic Service Medal, and Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal. In addition to his responsibilities as an administrative specialist, he has performed funeral honors for more than 35 Marines and is set to become the Toys for Tots Program Lead Coordinator in 2025. Alaska Marine Reservist of the Year, Sergeant Matthew Lawner. Sergeant Matthew Lawner is a platoon sergeant assigned to the 4th Law Enforcement Battalion, Detachment Delta Company at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. In this role, he ensures readiness by coordinating training and ensuring troop welfare. His accomplishments include leading 48 drill periods and a 2-week overseas training exercise on the Arabian Peninsula. Born in Colorado, Sergeant Lawner came to Alaska as a military child and made it his home when his family decided to retire in Alaska following an assignment at Elmendorf Air Force Base. After graduating from Chugiak High School, Sergeant Lawner immediately enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. He attended basic military police school in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and has been with his current unit since 2016. In 2022, Sergeant Lawner was deployed to Guantanamo Bay for 8 months. His personal awards include the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, 3 times awarded Selected Marine Corps Reserve Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. Sergeant Lawner is a proud volunteer for Toys for Tots. Alaska Sailor of the Year, Petty Officer First Class, Sonny Kenberoy. Petty Officer First Class Sonny Kenberoy is an N6 IT department head for the Navy Reserve Center in Anchorage, Alaska. He holds a number of collateral duties, including the program manager for the Drug and Alcohol Program Advisor, Sexual Assault and Prevention Victims Advocate, and the Assistant Facilities Manager. In his role as the N6 department head, Petty Officer First Class Kenberoy ensures 90 NMCI accounts, 31 NIPR assets, and 1 SIPR asset are operational. In 2024, he ensured department programs were inspection ready, ultimately passing with a Bravo Zulu from the Regional Commanding Officer. Petty Officer First Class Kenberoy was born and raised on the island of Yap in the Federated States of Micronesia. He enlisted in the Navy while in Guam, graduating from boot camp in 2017. His tours include the Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base in New Orleans, Louisiana, and the Naval Air Station in Point Mugu, California. He checked in at the Naval Reserve Center in Anchorage in 2023. Petty Officer First Class Kenberoy's personal awards include a Meritorious Unit Commendation and 3 Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medals. Petty Officer First Class Kenberoy gives additional time to support the NRC by volunteering at community and fundraising events. He is married and has 3 children. Alaska Navy Reservist of the Year, Petty Officer Second Class Christiana Gadsden. Petty Officer 2nd Class Christiana Gadsden is the Funeral Honors Coordinator assigned to the Navy Reserve Center in Anchorage. In this role, Petty Officer 2nd Class Gadsden has coordinated 140 funeral honors details across Alaska and recruited and retained 50 reservists as honors team members. Petty Officer 2nd Class Gadsden earned a Bachelor of Arts in Music from the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. She was accepted into World Teach as a public school teacher for under-resourced communities in American Samoa before moving to Greece to be the creative director for Hellenic Ministries. Inspired by her father, the first American Samoan Air Force chaplain, Petty Officer 2nd Class Gadsden enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 2018 and attended basic training at Great Lakes, Illinois in 2019. She then completed CMA school in Port Hueneme, California in December of 2019. In 2020, she gained her first cross-assigned unit, commissioned RC Navy Cargo Handling Battalion 5. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Gadsden served under the Alaska Naval Militia to perform medical screenings in the local community. Petty Officer 2nd Class Gadsden reported to the Navy Reserve Center in Anchorage in 2021, where she now serves as the Funeral Honors Coordinator. Additional responsibilities include the Public Affairs Office Assistant and Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Coordinator. She gives additional time to the unit and has arranged the Arctic Sailors Food Booth at the 2024 Arctic Thunder Open House and raised more than $15,000 to organize 2 Navy Ball events. Petty Officer 2nd Class Gadsden's personal awards include Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal with 1 Gold Star, NATO Meritorious Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Good Conduct Medal with 1 Bronze Star, and Navy E Ribbon. Alaska Airman of the Year, Senior Airman Augustin Gonzalez. Senior Airman Augustin Gonzalez is the fitness and sports journeyman and ceremonial honor guardsman for the 354th Force Support Squadron at Eielson Air Force Base, Alaska. As a key member of the Honor Guard team, he performs ceremonial duties and supports military funerals across Alaska. And in his role as a fitness specialist, he oversees physical fitness assessments and community fitness events, promoting health and welfare on the base and in the local community. Born in California and raised in Texas, Senior Airman Gonzalez grew up in an immigrant family, which motivated him to make the most of every opportunity. Since arriving to Alaska in 2023, he has supported about 146,000 total force visitors in a variety of ways, including 45 quality of life events, 5 intramural sports seasons, and about 2,700 physical fitness tests. Senior Airman Gonzalez supported a 6-week emergency lodging plan for 72 alert aircrew personnel, helping safeguard NORTHCOM operations during an unauthorized entry into the Alaska Air Defense ID zone. Senior Airman Gonzalez has dedicated hundreds of hours to Airmen Against Drunk Driving and the 354th Force Support Squadron Child Development and Youth Center. He's also mentored 31 men during the Passport to Manhood program. Senior Airman Gonzalez is a decorated Taekwondo athlete with 6 state championships, 3 national championships, and a black belt earned over a decade of training. Alaska Air Force Reservist of the Year, Staff Sergeant Amy Steen. Staff Sergeant Amy Steen is the Religious Affairs NCOIC of the 477th Fighter Group at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, Alaska. In this role, she is responsible for managing the Religious Affairs program and creating spiritually fit airmen through spiritual care and leadership advisement for 5th-generation F-22A flying units. Born in Michoacan, Mexico, Staff Sergeant Steen immigrated to the United States at the age of 10. She graduated with honors from the University of Phoenix with a bachelor's in criminal justice administration. In 2019, Staff Sergeant Steen joined the U.S. Air Force as a security forces member. Her accomplishments include launching a security program for a local religious organization, As a special experience indicator, Staff Sergeant Steen is qualified to provide life-saving emergency support to airmen experiencing acute trauma. She has also volunteered with at-risk youth at an inpatient mental health facility. Staff Sergeant Steen's deployments include 6 months at the Al Udeid Air Force Base. Her personal awards include an Air and Space Achievement Medal and a Humanitarian Service Medal. Staff Sergeant Steen is currently preparing her commissioning package. Staff Sergeant is married to Staff Sergeant Austin Steen. Alaska Air National Guardsman of the Year, Senior Airman Zachary Hayes. Senior Airman Zachary Hayes is the Space Systems Crew Chief for the 213th Space Warning Squadron of the Alaska Air National Guard, assigned to the 168th Wing at Eielson Air Force Base. In this role, Senior Airman Hayes supervises the tracking of more than 9,000 orbiting satellites to provide thorough and time-sensitive space domain awareness to U.S. Spacecom and National Air and Space Intel Center. Since arriving to Alaska in 2022, Senior Airman Hayes has responded to more than 29 periods of interest in relation to foreign non-cooperative space and missile launches, preparing his crew for contingencies and leading procedures that resulted in a flawless success rate. He's also coordinated a $3 million upgrade among 3 government agencies and 2 contracting firms and built connections with the scientific community to better support mutual objectives between NASA Aurora research projects and the CLEAR mission. His personal awards include Small Arms Expert Marksmanship Ribbon, named the 168th Wing Airman of the Year, and the 2025 Alaska Air National Guard's Outstanding Airman of the Year. Alaska Guardian of the Year, Sergeant Nicolas Casaus. Sergeant Nicolas Casaus is an active-duty United States Space Force space operator attached to the 13th Space Warning Squadron at Clear Space Force Station, Alaska. As a Missile Warning Operations Center Crew Commander, he serves as the squadron commander's on-duty representative for installation oversight, directing, and operating an $800 million weapon system to detect and track missile launches that provides early warning missile defense and impact data for NORAD, U.S. Northcom. Inspired by both his older brother and late maternal grandfather, Sergeant Casaus entered the Air Force's junior program while in high school before enlisting in 2016. In 2020, Sergeant Casaus made history by becoming one of the first 1,000 members sworn into the newly created Space Force branch. His past assignments were the Buckley Space Force Base and Vandenberg Space Force Base. He arrived at Clear Space Force Station in Alaska in 2023. Since Sergeant Casaus arrived to Alaska, his accomplishments include, among others, completing 642 tasks, delivering 1,200 metric observations, and supporting 20 foreign maneuver events. He's overseen 71 programs and coordinated the security inspection, resulting in a 58% improvement in compliance. His personal awards include an Air and Space Commendation Medal, Air and Space Achievement Medal with 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Space Force Good Conduct Medal with 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Air Force Good Conduct Medal with 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, and a Nuclear Deterrence Operations Service Medal with 2 Oak Leaf Clusters. Alaska Coast Guardsman of the Year, Petty Officer 2nd Class Roland Ramirez. Petty Officer 2nd Class Roland Ramirez is a personnel and administration technician at the Sector Field Office in Valdez, Alaska. In his role, Petty Officer 2nd Class Ramirez leads administrative operations supporting more than 100 active reserve and civilian personnel to ensure their readiness, health, and welfare. Petty Officer 2nd Class Ramirez has voluntarily earned several advanced qualifications including Duty Engineer and Heavy Equipment Operator. In these roles, he is responsible for servicing housing units, local facilities, and 11 acres of government property, which includes overseeing the removal of 12 million cubic feet of snow annually. Originally from Texas, Petty Officer 2nd Class Ramirez traveled to Station New Haven in Connecticut for his first Coast Guard assignment. He graduated from Yeoman A School and arrived in Alaska in 2022. Outside his yeoman responsibilities, Petty Officer 2nd Class Ramirez has volunteered at the Valdez Senior Center and is a critical stress incident management peer, offering peer counseling, stress management techniques, and emotional support to fellow service members. Alaska Coast Guard Reservist of the Year, Petty Officer 1st Class Thea Ritter. Petty Officer 1st Class Thea Ritter is an intelligence specialist assigned to Sector Western Alaska and U.S. Arctic at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. As an intelligence specialist, she is responsible for reporting on critical information on Alaska maritime issues affecting local, state, and national security, and helping to forge relationships with law enforcement partners across the state. Certified as a digital forensics examiner, she's also responsible for examining digital evidence. Originally from Massachusetts, Petty Officer 1st Class Ritter earned a Master of Science and PhD in Agricultural Sciences from the University of Hohenheim in Stuttgart, Germany. After completing her studies in Germany and conducting field research in Vietnam, Thailand, Ethiopia, Malawi, and Mozambique, she had a desire to give back to her country and joined the Coast Guard as a reservist. Petty Officer 1st Class Ritter moved from Maine to Alaska in 2022 with her husband and 6-week-old baby to participate in Alaska's outdoor opportunities and assume a more active role in the community. In 2024, she participated in 5 deployments: Dutch Harbor, Nome, Homer, Utqiagvik, Deadhorse, and Seward. As a reservist, she has helped gather information about environmental impacts on Alaska Native livelihoods, food security, and traditional ways of life. In her civilian career, she's a postdoctoral researcher for an international research institute focused on reducing food insecurity in developing countries. Alaska's Spouse of the Year, Mrs. Angela Jones. Mrs. Angela Jones is a dedicated military spouse stationed at Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska. Mrs. Jones arrived to Alaska in 2019 with her husband, Lieutenant Colonel Tan Jones, and their 5 children. A stay-at-home mom, Mrs. Jones is a passionate volunteer who has shared her time and talents with numerous organizations and groups, including the Eielson Spouses Club, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Fairbanks Food Bank, Ben Eielson High School, and the Eielson Air Force Base Resident Council. She also operated Young Yeti's Childcare on Eielson, an official family childcare and respite care center. Young Yetis offered deployment care, extended temporary duty assignment care, permanent change of station care, and more to military families. This experience helped Mrs. Jones become an even stronger advocate for military families at Eielson Air Force Base. Most recently, Mrs. Jones was the co-lead for the 2024 Light the World Giving Machine in the Fairbanks North Pole area. Under her guidance, this year's program raised crucial funding for local nonprofits during the holiday season. When not taking care of her family or volunteering, Mrs. Jones is an avid outdoor woman who enjoys alpine skiing, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, rollerblading, and kayaking. She recently completed a 33-mile hike to summit the Canadian side of the Chilkoot Trail. Bobby Alexander Civic Leader of the Year, Mr. Keith Monternock. Mr. Keith Monternock is the owner and operator of Specialty Truck and Auto in Anchorage, Alaska. Originally from Iowa, Mr. Monternock moved to Alaska in 1987, shortly after high school, and started Specialty Truck and Auto in 1993. After moving to the last frontier, he made giving back to the military a priority as a way to honor his father, who served in the U.S. Army. Mr. Monternock's support of Alaska service members has made big impacts throughout the state. He's been an honorary commander on J-Bear for more than a decade and served on numerous nonprofit boards that support Alaska military and law enforcement. In 2007, Mr. Monternock co-founded the Combat Fishing Tournament as a way to give thanks to junior enlisted service members. Since its inception, the tournament has taken more than 3,400 active duty members to Seward's Resurrection Bay for a day of chartered deep-sea fishing at no cost. Mr. Monternock is an active parishioner of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Catholic Church and the proud father to an amazing daughter.